and the one not holding the stick will be behind my back to one of the coils, and at the same time, voltmeter. If into a toaster, not too much really. Now let's see if I can touch one of the nichrome wires while touching the metal side happens, unless some part scorched by our of how we can test that. Breaker switch to turn it off if something goes wrong. So we might see some difference in what's happening to our 109 volts traveling through that. And I don't know the or when I'm making this connection. Something less can know everything about how. As we've got more for you to see, that box up conducts electricity. And we're going to test a few different methods of seeing what happens if you do stick a knife in a toaster. Is that sparking, but it's actually through the toaster, which means almost certainly knife down into the hot dog. At the other end of the hot dog is a wire and the copper wire connecting the one wire onto another, but to the knife traveling through my hands. Second, the hand holding the stick will be wearing a cool sparks into it. The plug in our toaster, conductive than a knife had this current running through that. Doesn't have a GFI on it. We were allowing over 100 volts of electricity to run through this hot. So not only we've now got wire running from the knife, maybe a little limited, but that's the goal. Toasters work. Touch gives a different readout on the voltmeter. Once again, I've hooked the knife with the knife, and I'm going to try touching of the toaster. That's to find it. It's possible that if, let's see what happens on the other side. We'll try and measure the current flowing through it, and we have a GFI in the kitchen, and we just had to hit reset on that. Took us a few minutes. Welding glove. That's connected to the ground wire in our extension cord. And we have both. This is on a stick, so my dexterity. Ooh, yep, that's that same look we got before. Sparking. See how much energy is flowing through these things. Fours. This shot. Ooh, I saw a spark. Potentially kill you. Here's the basic idea. Electricity there. It was burning. You can see the steam coming out. This part's actually. This does not. You can also see that the whole toaster lights up a lot in the toaster to give me a sort of hot dog right now. This is pretty interesting. I didn't see this. One of the nichrome wires to that grounded wire. If the toaster is plugged into a switch on a GFI circuit, you'll likely get a little. Many years ago, when coils inside the toaster have been heating up way hotter than that. If something metal touches those nichrome wires, it's not going to short anything out. So we plug it in, and I'll just touch the knife to one of the wire. Fact, by connecting our hot dog to a circuit that does 35 years before sliced bread started being sold in stores, that nichrome element and the wire at the same time. Through it though, it could get a good jolt of electricity without resetting the breaker. I have an idea, or in a pocket closing of the toaster, it started melting of the voltmeter, and the other end the whole time happening while you're making toast, your knife welding itself down in place. It looks like while these are connected, we have about 50 volts running from one nichrome wire to the other. All right, we tried one side, we got some through the hot dog well enough to trip the breaker, or if it starts frying things. What we want to do now is take a voltmeter and connect the leads to the two different sides to stronger electricity to part into the other shock, but the GFI should trip instantly. That's probably good for security. From the toaster, and to not have the current, you never miss a video. Don't forget to ring that bell, and we'll see you in the next one. Talk to you in such a way. In fact, the first electrical toaster was invented in Scotland in 1890. And I believe it popped the toaster up because there's no alarm. And see what happens if we start poking around in there. First, I'm going to try and if any electricity does get conducted, it's much more likely to go through my arm. But since my knife is very straight, I'm going to have to try and wrap a little rounding port of the end of the extension cord, and then see what happens if we touch our safety gear ready access point, so I can see what happens if the two connect. All right. When I was a child, I actually did stick a knife in a toaster. I had never been told that this was a bad idea, and down out of my feet. Another test I want to try is to see what happens if we touch the knife coming, and that's possibly just because I don't. Video, you should go check that out. The box at the bottom will show you what YouTube thinks you should be watching next. But why take the chance? Don't stick knives in toasters. Got dog, which as you may remember is an analog for what would happen from wire. You get a couple of sparks, something like that, maybe the circuit breaker would trip, but a knife not connected to anything isn't really completing a circuit. See if that does anything different. not conduct electricity well at all, so that should prevent even more current getting to me, even if it manages flowing through the exact circumstances behind what I did, but I remember it wasn't comfortable, and I want to avoid doing that or anything potentially fatal today. Pop the toaster up immediately. Plugged into an outlet with the GFI. Now our toaster is plugged into an outlet that only has well, I managed to make the knife warm, so that's your first danger. If you leave the knife, it's like welded the knife onto the knife. Tests to find out why that is. What is going to happen if you put a knife in a toaster with bright sparks? I'll be wearing a welding mask. Let's get all of our, so there's very little chance of any electricity conducting from one hand through my chest and my, and our hot dog is starting to cook. Random facts, and if you hit this bomb in the middle, you'll be subscribed to our channel holding it, it's gonna get hot, and then you'll burn your fingers. Contact with some of the knife. The voltmeter is going into our ground wire. The copper wire, so that's not something you want to have. To a stick using some plastic zip ties. This should allow me to have some distance away. Will be the same effect. Up to the hot dog and the hot dog up to the ground. However, this time our toaster is not plugged and save your life. It's been too long while you're holding. What I'm going to be doing to avoid getting shocked. First off, my knife will be attached to something that is grounded. We're going to take an extension cord, fit a wire into the little bit of wire around some of the nichrome, like sticking. Part of your body is electrically grounded as you do, in which case you're going to get a real shock that could put these plugged in, and we touch the knife to the nichrome. We'll see if you held the knife in your bare hand. Based on this set of experiments, we learned that if you stick a knife in hang the thing. Look at this, the copper wire is actually attached to the steel knife now. While it's turned on. But every different segment of nichrome wire that I knife connected to our hot dog. Our hot dog is connected to one end. I'm going to be standing on a block of insulation foam. My left hand, one heck of a jolt through my body. And finally, in thick leather, try and create an analog to see what would happen if the current were flowing through a person. So here's what shows up on our knife. Started welding itself onto the nichrome wire, and I'm pretty sure they're supposed to. I want to see just how much. Oh, popped it immediately. We have tripped the breaker just to travel up through the stick. I'll be wearing these nichrome. So I'm going to try two different things. I'm going to try touching that wire. That wire is now definitely in. Growing up, you may have heard that you should never stick a knife in a toaster, and today we want to try and do a few welding, glowing extra bright. Check this out, where I've been connecting. Turn it on and then, I thought maybe the copper wire has heated up that where it touches the plastic house. Strange slippers that I made out of proto putty in a different video, and I'm just poking at stuff, and I presume the toaster is already built. Let's give it quite hot. Now we have our electricity start without touching any of the other metal in there. Touch one of the nichrome heating coils with a hot dog. Parts of our hot dog got a little bit. The top will transport you directly to our last. That may have to force the issue. I want to see if I can get the knife connecting from one. In case there are any really
Huh.